Good evening. We appreciate everybody being here tonight, and thank you for coming to the Committee of the Whole for the September 3rd City Council meeting. The council should have the minutes from our October the 20th Committee of the Whole meeting. Do I have any additions or corrections? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
Move for approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the minutes are carried. Ms. Taylor.
Yes. Okay, I guess we're going to discuss tonight the no parking zone on Williams Street. And there was a community meeting given by Councilperson Griswold and myself. And that meeting was concerning parking in the Fraser Street area, which includes Williams Street. So we was to come up with some plan as to how we need to park, since we've been invaded with students. And I hate to say it like that, but I love y'all students though. So we came up with a plan, and everybody agreed upon it. Then we met with the city, and the city had a meeting. And one of the things about Williams Street was, it's a little unique because it's a dead-end street. So I am the only resident on that street that does not have a designated parking area. Everybody else has a driveway. So when we had the meeting, and even with the city, I had discussed that when we put out no parking on Williams, let's do it on the opposite side of the road as to where I live. Well, we brought it to the city, and we voted on it, I think in one of the meetings back. And I didn't realize that we was voting on it, the parking, and maybe I should have looked. But I did not realize that we was voting on the parking to be on this side of the street, since it was already discussed. Well, in the second meeting, what happened is there was a card. Everybody is to fill out the cards, and they just say, about the parking and what they wanted in that area. Well, I didn't realize that there was someone that filled out a card on Williams Street that addressed the parking on that side, and they suggested from the card that we park on the side of the street, no parking on the side I live on. So when the guys came out to bring the signs out for no parking, I addressed them and said, hey, y'all putting the no parking sign on the wrong side of the street. And they said, no, this is what the map shows. And I said, well, you're looking at the right map, because the map I just looked at said that the sign's going on the opposite side of the street. And so they said they was instructed, but they won't put them out now until somebody talked with the city. So I did call the city, and I was informed by the city manager that there was someone had put it on the card that they suggested we park on my side of the street. Well, they gave me the person's name, the address, and I actually went and talked with the resident. Now, the person who actually filled the card out, well, apparently he's a student, so he says to me, he said, well, it really didn't matter with me, but I was just looking out for the fact that a van comes down here and picks up somebody at your address. And so I said, well, that van comes, but that van don't park. That van comes up out there, they blow. My sister get in, and it drives off. So I would prefer, so he said, well, it doesn't matter with me. Well, I guess apparently it did matter with him. And he said he was going to address the city with it. Well, I get an email today, and I guess the owner of the house, and this Miss Casket or something like that, and she says that the purpose of them putting the no parking sign is because of a fire hydrant on that side. So she made a suggestion that I have no problem with, is that we bring the no parking up to a certain, excuse me, I see, a certain area on my side of the street. So I guess in other words, there should be parking on all the way up, no parking all the way up until you get to my house. Okay, so and I just want to say to the city officials or whoever that I don't have a problem with that as long as I'm able to park on my side of the street. To make a long story short. So that's what the discussion is tonight.
Okay.
And I know there was an ordinance done, and according to Megan, the ordinance is a law, so we have to go in and we have to make those changes the same way we brought about the first changes.
Any questions from the council for Ms. Taylor or the city manager?
Just procedurally, would Ms. Taylor have to recuse herself from voting on that if we amend it, because specifically affects her?
I would have to get an opinion, but I would think that, yes, she would need to recuse herself.
Jim, do you see any issues with trying to rework this no parking area on William Street with the concern for the fire hydrant and the concern for Ms. Taylor's residence and the availability to get to her house? Has engineering evaluated this since all this came forward?
Engineering has not evaluated what Ms. Taylor just mentioned. Engineering met with these residents and came up with a plan to solve the issue. If there is a problem with that plan, then we need to go back and look at it. As Ms. Taylor said, council will have to adopt a different ordinance with a modified plan. That's up to council. If you want us to go back and look at it, bring it back to council, that would be a council decision.
Well, because I drove down the street today to look at it, and it's a very short street, and the only way in is to back up and reverse into someone's driveway and go back out. There's no way to turn around. So the no parking signs on the street, there's no paint on the curb to indicate where you should and shouldn't park. There's just signage. So if we were to designate a portion of the road to only be for no parking and some can be for parking, a sign is going to be very confusing. Would we not have to stripe that curb?
Again, I would have to let engineering look at it, but I think it would be confusing. We don't like to paint the curbs because they're a nightmare to maintain, and right after painting, they look pretty bad. So we'd like to get away with signs if we can, but if we can't, we have to paint.
Do we have any other instances where we have only a portion of the street is no parking, the other portion is parking available?
We probably do. I don't know if Allison knows off the top of her head.
I don't know, traffic engineer saying yes.
Randy might.
Brandy's saying yes.
Oh, there she is. Okay. We could look at all this and bring this back on. Like I said, we have not looked at it from a staff perspective other than when we originally proposed the plan. That was what we thought the neighbors were requesting.
Do we have a cost estimate of what we've spent on what we spent currently for how it's laid out?
I'm sorry?
Do we have a cost estimate, or do we know how much it costs as it is right now?
The cost would be minimal because we just put up signs. If we were painting and everything else, the cost would be more, but we just put up signs. So.
I'd like the city to take another look at it. I would say the same thing for any citizen that came up, approached this council about wanting to look at it. William Street is a one-way street, dead end, and not too many people live on the street, so you can't park in front of a fire hydrant regardless before you put the signs over there. So I would ask the city to look at it again and see if there's something we can do to help Ms. Taylor out. And like I said, it's not because she's on the council. If any citizen showed up and asked me to ask for that, I would ask for anybody. So I would appreciate if we could look at it again.
How does the rest of the council feel about that, what Mr. Dawson just mentioned? Is everybody okay with that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Mr. Buston, would you and the staff please take another look at this, and we can talk about it at the next meeting.
We can look at it and have an ordinance available for you on the next meeting.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right. West Pace Village Improvement District Board of Directors, Ms. Whitten.
Yes, we have one vacancy, term beginning September 16th of 2019, and the incumbent Brad McGill has served only one full term, and I would like to nominate Mr. McGill for a second full term.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations from the council? Okay. If not, all in favor of Mr. McGill, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll appoint Mr. McGill later on in the agenda. Questions on the agenda tonight for City Manager Buston?
Mayor, we do have one correction. Item number 8E2. Originally, that item said that it was coming from Oak Tree Corner LLC. That is incorrect. The actual company is Barn 108 LLC.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Buston? All right, do we have a move to adjourn the committee of the whole?
So moved.
Second.
Committee of the whole is adjourned. Lindsay?
Here.
Dixon?
Here.
Griswold?
Here.
Opie?
Here.
Carson?
Here.
Smith?
Present.
Here.
Witten?
Here.
Anders?
Here. Would you please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Okay, being the first meeting of the month is our opportunity to recognize those employees of the city who have done an outstanding job, and to lead that off is our employee of the month. We have a memo that has come from Allison Hall through Becky Richardson to Jim Buston, and so if I could ask Elizabeth Kaufman to please come forward. How you doing? It is my honor to nominate Elizabeth Kaufman, Therapeutics Recreation Coordinator, as Employee of the Month for September 2019. Elizabeth joined the Parks and Rec Department in June of 17 and was immediately thrust into the first week of our annual Summer Therapeutic Camp, which is a 7-week, all-day camp for 55 teens and adults with intellectual disabilities. She just successfully finished up her 3rd camp program at the end of July, all while working around the construction at Drake Middle School and the commuting to Sanford Pool for swimming. Elizabeth has created and strengthened many partnerships with groups and agencies throughout our community to promote our therapeutics programs, as well as create opportunities for collaboration. For example, the Auburn University School of Nursing assists with afternoon play groups that meet at Dean Road Rec Center, and she brought the Knights of Columbus Council 13415 as volunteers and donors for our Lee County Special Olympics program. Speaking of Special Olympics, Elizabeth serves as the county director, and the program currently has almost 300 active athletes participating in aquatics, basketball, bowling, flag football, golf, powerlifting, softball, tennis, track and field, and volleyball. This year, she is adding bocce to the program, and athletes will practice on the new courts recently built at Martin Luther King Park. She is a certified coach in basketball, flag football, powerlifting, track and field, and volleyball, and she is finishing up her bowling certification this fall. While the therapeutics program is Elizabeth's primary focus, she is also responsible for the management of the Dean Road Rec Center, and she plans the annual Daddy-Daughter Date Night event, which is not a night. It's multiple nights, right?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. This past February, she coordinated the 5 nights of the 30th anniversary event with over 1,900 people in attendance. I have received numerous compliments from parents and teachers about her open communication and her willingness to do anything for the students and athletes in our program, and this is why I believe that Elizabeth is deserving of recognition as the City of Auburn Employee of the Month. Appreciate it.
Do you need an agenda? You need an agenda. Where's pens?
Okay, service awards from the Water Resource Management Department, 5 years, Elizabeth Ingram. From the Finance Department, 15 years, Tamara Yancey. From Environmental Services Department, 15 years, Terry Zellers. And 20 years from our Finance Department, Allison Edge. Is Miss Ann Randall here? What's this little fella's name?
Irvin.
How you doing, Irvin?
A little shy.
It's okay. This is from Public Works Director Tim Woody through Megan McGowan Crouch, Assistant City Manager, to Jim Buston, our City Manager. It is my pleasure to nominate Ann Randall, Urban Forestry Specialist, for an Achievement Award. Ann has attained certification as an International Society of Arboriculture, okay, Certified Arborist. The requirements of this certification include a combination of education, relevant experience, and passing a rigorous exam based on the applicant's knowledge of soil management, tree identification and selection, tree installation and establishment, tree biology, tree removal and pruning practices, diagnosis and treatment of tree diseases, urban forestry management, and tree risk management. You know all that? That's pretty good. In addition to receiving her ISA certification, Ann has been instrumental to the Public Works Department's efforts in developing the city's urban forestry management program and in expanding and improving the city's tree inventory and assessment program. During the last 5 months, she has developed standard operating procedures for the municipal tree risk assessments, tree removals, and replacements. She has completed over 3,000 individual tree assessments and recently completed an exotic invasive plant removal project along the city's historic tree trail in Town Creek Park. By earning her ISA certification, Ann has accomplished a significant achievement, and I'm pleased to recommend that she be recognized for her efforts. Congratulations. Okay, this next one is a team award, and I have asked Dan Ballard, our division manager for landscape and sustainability, to come help me. Those of you who are involved in this, if you'd come forward, please, you know who you are. If y'all would line up across the front right there, that'd be great. Many times with projects that are in depth, that are timely, that are important, we have to pull a lot of people together to make it happen. And this is a great example. A couple of weeks ago, the city of Auburn and Auburn University had a tremendous celebration with the opening of the Googe Performing Arts Center. What you don't know, all of us that enjoyed those couple of days and nights at that fabulous facility, is all the work that went in to make it look appropriate for the grand opening that evening. And the people you see here tonight had a lot to do with that, and that's why we're recognizing them. So on August the 1st, 2019, Public Works assumed operational control over 4 newly installed landscape islands on South College Street, located in front of the J. and Susie Googe Performing Arts Center. With the grand opening of GPAC scheduled for August the 22nd, we had a limited amount of time to prepare a temporary landscape installation on the islands. Under the leadership of Dan Ballard, Landscape and Sustainability Division Manager, the division's beautification crew quickly developed a work plan which included hauling in approximately 125 cubic yards of topsoil and 100 cubic yards of pine bark mulch, grading to establish an appropriate crown for the permanent landscape installation, locating existing utilities, installing 13 oak trees in various plantings, installing 18 advertisement banners, installing an irrigation meter, daily watering, including the weekends. Early on, the beautification crew recognized the need for assistance to accomplish these tasks and took the initiative to coordinate all the necessary labor and equipment needs. This included assistance from Clint Sagas from Engineering Services, Traffic Engineering Division, Mike Oswalt from Parks and Rec Department, Cemetery and Parks Division, Ann Randall, James Pitts, Nick Clark, Eddie Washington, and Michael Talbert from Public Works Department, Landscape and Sustainability Division, and the Right-of-Way Maintenance Division. Jeff Smith, Justin Floyd, Francis West, Sidney Whitman, and Dennis Young from Water Resource Management Department, Collection Division, and Neil Godfrey, Scott Key, Don Miles, and John Williams from Water Resource Management, Water Division. Not only did this product help ensure the visitors to GPAC had a more positive experience, the work of these employees saved the city approximately $21,000 since it was done in-house versus outsourcing. Because of their hard work and their dedication and their positive attitudes displayed by the employees, they all worked together to complete this project. We would like to recognize them with a Teamwork Award. Congratulations and thank all y'all. So we have a certificate for each one of them. We'll call them out by name. Justin Floyd. Neil Godfrey. Kelly Jackson. Scott Key. Don Miles. James Pitts. Ann Randall.
And Irvin.
Jeff Reeves. Clint Sagas. Jeff Smith. Michael Talbert. Eddie Washington. Francis West. Sidney Whitman. Nick Clark. Isaiah Wilkerson. Okay, guys, congratulations. I know Miss Cynthia wants to take a picture of it. Thank y'all for everything. Thank you very much. Okay, will Miss Jackie Middleton please come forward? This is a resolution. So whereas Jackie Middleton serves the community by investing in Auburn's youth as an engineering teacher at Auburn High School. Whereas Ms. Middleton sponsors Auburn High School's Science Olympiad program and Science and Engineering Fair. Whereas she leads Auburn High School's Engineering Club, coaches the robotics team, and hosts monthly STEM nights at local elementary schools to increase the excitement for STEM education in our community. And whereas Ms. Middleton has been an educator for more than education's sake since 2004, working to create a safe haven for students in her classroom. And whereas she was named the 2019-2020 Teacher of the Year at Auburn High School before being named the Secondary Teacher of the Year for Auburn City Schools. And where she went on to become the Secondary Teacher of the Year for District 2, before making it to the Final Four in the Alabama State Department of Education Teacher of the Year competition. And where she was named the Alabama Alternate Teacher of the Year on May the 8th, allowing her to return to her classroom to be with her students while continuing to fulfill her duties with ALSDE to speak to teachers from around the state of Alabama. And whereas Ms. Middleton was selected for this honor out of 46,766 public school teachers in the state of Alabama, and is a marvelous representation of the excellence within Auburn City Schools and the city of Auburn. Now be therefore resolved by the City Council of the City of Auburn, Alabama, that the council hereby recognizes Jackie Middleton for being named the Alabama Alternate Teacher of the Year. Do I have a motion?
I moved.
Second.
Motion clears. Adopted and approved by the City of Auburn on this third day of September. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Hanging off my hair.
Okay, if I could have the members of the Dixie Youth World Series champions come forward with their three coaches. You guys line up right there. Another resolution from the City of Auburn. Whereas the Dixie Youth Baseball Ozone Auburn Orange team finished the district with a record of 3-0 and a state record of 6-1 and a World Series record to date. Wait, hold on, that doesn't make any sense. What was y'all's record in the World Series? 5-1, 6-1? 5-1, all right. So Auburn Orange won the district tournament in Auburn. Auburn Orange then traveled to Troy for the Alabama Ozone tournament and won using a strong pitching staff and a deep roster of hitters. That's what y'all look like for sure. And whereas Auburn Orange had a batting average of .404 to win the state tournament, and the team has now won the state tournament 2 years in a row. An Auburn team has won the state tournament 2 years in a row. All right, so I'm going to recognize all your names. If you just kind of step out and smile so everybody besides your mom knows who you are, okay? Whereas the team of Brady Sugelski, good. Alex Proce, good. Colton Plan. Harrison Short, still 12 years old. All right, guys, here we go. Hank Hudson. Ethan Grooms. Ty Jones. Weston Luther. Harrison Geiger. Ty Hudson. Sam Jackson. And Will Watley. Along with coaches Dennis Jones, Bert Hudson, and manager Josh Jackson competed with skill, determination, and great sportsmanship to represent Auburn at the Alabama Ozone Tournament. Now be it resolved that the City Council of Auburn, Alabama, that the council hereby recognizes the players and coaches from the Dixie Youth Ozone Team, Auburn Orange, for being the World Series champions, and be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this meeting and presented to each coach, manager, and team. Do I have a motion? Have a motion and a second. Adopted and approved by the City Council of the City of Auburn, Alabama for this third day of September. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been playing youth baseball in Auburn for a long, long time. And we've had a lot of teams that have been very successful, and this city certainly has a baseball heritage, but never has a team of this age group been the Dixie Youth World Series champions. And I'm very proud of you and proud of how you represented your community this summer. Thank you very much. Oh, why don't you say something? All right, Coach Jackson, they want you to say something.
All right. Didn't know I was going to be asked to say something, but let me say this. Thank you very much. I'm not sure who else here, but I did see Mike Goggins back in the back right corner. Is unbelievable. Supported us all summer long, everything we needed, you know, a good friend and a great employee with the Park and Rec Department. And Ron we don't have a bigger supporter than him all summer long. So you should know that. And I've said before, with him, his support did not start when we won the World Series. It was from day one when we set out practicing. He's out there at practice with us, eating supper with us, and was with us the whole way. And we enjoyed that. Thank you to everybody else in the city. I'm not sure who else is here, but we had a great time representing Auburn.
Thank you.
There's going to bring these bags and the podium.
All right, look at Miss Cynthia right there again. Pay attention, lady with camera right there. All right, happy boys. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yes.
Moving that.
Scouts.
Thank all of you for your patience. It's important, I think, for our community to always recognize those who've done a great job and brought great recognition to Auburn. And so thank y'all for your patience with that. We appreciate it. At this time, I know we've got some scouts here tonight, and I didn't know if you'd like to introduce yourselves individually, or you could do it collectively, or however you'd like to do it. We'd love to hear what your scout number is and where you're from and what you're working on.
Hello, we are Troop 19. Together, or today we are working together to work on the citizenship and the community merit badge, which is an Eagle required merit badge.
Good. We're glad to have y'all. Y'all come back and visit us anytime, okay? Thank you for being here. Just another quick announcement before I turn it over to the council members if they have anything. I was fortunate last week to be able to participate in a couple of meetings, first with Moody's and second one with Standard & Poor, as they came to Auburn to evaluate and examine our community and our city's financial wherewithal as we look to go to the bond market with the debt for the two schools, Drake and Cary Woods. It was a very rich opportunity to see people who are really agnostic when it comes to our community, that they're here to evaluate us on our merits and to hear our story and the whys that we do things and evaluate the stability of not only our leadership and our community, but also our financial situation. I'm just proud to tell you that our staff once again performed as the champions that they are. They provided the kind of information that these professionals from Wall Street were looking for and that we're pleased to receive, and we hope for good news from both of these agencies later on this week. But the staff did an excellent job representing you, the citizens, to those who scrutinize our financial situation at the highest order. So it was a great, great experience. Anybody else on the council that has an announcement this evening?
I have an announcement. On September the 10th at 6 o'clock at the Borken Community Center, there will be a Northwest Auburn Task Force. And I would encourage and invite everyone to come out. We have 4 guest speakers at the task force this time.
Thank you, Connie. Anyone else on the council have an announcement to make?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank Chris Warren, the director of the Auburn Public Library, for attending and addressing the Ward 2 Council meeting last week. Very informative and very professional. Thank you very much, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Also, Mayor, on September the 10th, next Tuesday, we're having a community meeting for citizens of Ward 8, primarily the Cox Road, Wire Road area. They have some concerns. So City Manager Jim Buston will be there along with Forrest, I believe, will be there to answer their questions, and hopefully we can get everything worked out. But everyone's invited if you'd like to attend.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Dawson, anyone else? Okay. Auburn University Communications.
Good evening, Council. I hope everyone had a good Labor Day. Tonight, I would like to introduce Mary Kate Hillis. Moving forward, Mary Kate will be giving the Auburn University Communication Report, as I will be moving into a more personal position, getting to know each of you and your districts a little bit better. So excited to get to meet with you all and look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, for all your work, man.
How are all of y'all?
War Eagle.
The Family Friday speaker series will be kicked off this Friday, September 6th at 3 p.m. in the Auburn Alumni Center with Auburn's wheelchair basketball team head coach Rob Taylor, who will be discussing the wheelchair basketball program and the direction it is headed. New Golden Eagle Araya will fly over Jordan-Hare Stadium this Saturday for the game against Tulane. She will join veteran Eagle Spirit this season. SGA has partnered with Auburn Athletics to create the 2019 Guide to Game Day information packet to inform students and fans about changes to the game day experience this season, namely the newly installed metal detectors. The homecoming parade will be next Friday, September 13th at 6 p.m. The pep rally will follow at 6:30 on Sanford Lawn. We want to encourage the entire Auburn community to attend. On Monday, September 16th, SGA will be conducting its biannual safety walk, where students from around campus partner with the Auburn Police Department and administrators to ensure that Auburn's campus is a safe environment. Finally, the Auburn Board of Trustees meeting will be held next Friday, September 13th. That concludes this week's report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Kate. We look forward to working with you. All right, at this point in time is citizens' communications on agenda items. I ask you to remember. Excuse me?
Okay. He said something about the wire Cox Road. Is that the Wendover Farm trailer park?
No.
You're welcome to come if you live in Wendover Trailer Park, but we primarily discuss future land use the city has come up with for that area, and the citizens are concerned about some of it. So we're going to get together and discuss it at the Harris Center next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock.
Okay, because we got a notice stating that we need to be there tonight for that.
Let me keep going here, okay? So at this point in time, it's time for you to make comments based on things that are on the agenda. So only things that are on our agenda tonight. I know there's probably people here that would love to talk about our last item on the agenda, which is the relocation of the Colors House. We will have a public hearing for that at that time. So any comments tonight at this point in time would be for other things that are on the agenda. You have 3 minutes, and please step forward and give your name and address for the record, okay? Give your name and address for the record. All of you that were concerned about the item that this lady just brought up, your time to talk will be at the end of the agenda tonight, okay? During citizens' communications. Okay? All right. Excuse me, 5 minutes. I apologize. Thank you.
Okay,
Correct
thank
me
you.
on that.
My name is Holly McIntyre. My address is 2727 Lee Road 12, number 101. This is in regards to item D1 on your agenda this evening, which is the Enterprise Program, Advantage Program. Okay, to my understanding, the Enterprise Program is also made up of the Opportunity 360 Program and encompasses the same thing, correct?
D1.
Yes.
Repeat that question, please, ma'am.
Isn't that an opportunity program? An opportunity zone program, Enterprise Advantage?
This is a services
not- this
agreement
is-
with our software provider, right?
Right, this
With
is,
GIS.
ESRI is a provider of mapping software.
Okay, well then I have the wrong item. Okay, thank you. Guess I'll wait.
Okay.
Ma'am, drop your pencil.
I'll just pin it up here. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished council, my name is Dan Hatcher, 1514 Alex Avenue, beautiful town of Auburn. I would, and what I would like to do is speak to item number 4, Foxtrot, which the chairman missed so far. And I would respectfully request that this council and the chairperson comply with City Code, Chapter 2, Article 1, Section 2 through 4. The City Council meeting as a committee of the whole is for the purpose of a staff briefing and for review and discussion of the agenda. And I find that though I sympathize with the chairwoman from Ward 1 and her parking woes, that this meeting, which is a committee meeting of the whole, by law, the law code of the city, requires that it be a discussion of the agenda. The agenda itself is what the law reads. And I would love for you to comply with the law or change it, as I've been often told. That's my recommendation. Please consider it. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Buster?
Under City Manager's communication this evening, our first order of business is the consent agenda. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and deal with that item individually?
Yes, I'd like to remove item D3.
I'm sorry, which number?
Item D3.
Okay.
I would like to remove item 8A, the minutes. I have a correction.
I'd like to pull 8C, please.
All right, anyone else? 8A, 8C, and 8D3, is that correct, council? Okay. We'll take those one at a time. Mr.
Yes,
Buster?
sir. Mayor, item 8A are the minutes from the last meeting.
Yeah.
I'd like to make an addition to the minutes from the last meeting. On page 6 of the minutes, under paragraph 9, about middle of the page, it states that Mayor Anders proposed an amendment to the ordinance to make ADUs conditional use, and a little more. I'd like to add, right after that, Mayor Anders reopened the public hearing, and Nick Hayes again stated his opposition. It says earlier that we closed the public hearing, but there's no mention that we reopened it, just for accuracy.
Okay, any other corrections? So do I have at this point in time, Jim, do we have a motion for the corrected minutes? How do we handle this procedurally?
You would move to accept the minutes as corrected.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as corrected?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any questions? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that carries. Motion carries. All right.
Item 8C is the Community Services Department requesting the purchase of a property at 893 Zellers Court, purchasing this property from Auburn Bank.
Mr. Hogan?
And I just need to abstain.
Okay.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with one abstention.
Item 8D3 is a development agreement with HP Auburn LLC for the 320 West Magnolia project. This item was tabled from the August 20th regular City Council meeting. The developer's representative is present to answer any questions the council may have.
All right.
Move for approval.
Jim, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Well, go ahead. We have a motion. We'll get.
Jim, the reason I pulled it.
Second.
You have a motion and a second? Okay.
All right,
now
questions?
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Bob. You good?
The reason that I pulled this item was I wanted to find out if there was any further updates as to if the development company met with the review committee again.
With the design review committee?
Yes.
They did meet a second time. I can let Megan, who was there, tell you what happened at the meeting.
I may defer to Forrest. I was there as well. They met a second time, and again, not required to meet per the policy set forth. They had sent, Tuesday prior to your last meeting, they had sent some updates. They met again, and Forrest, nod your head if I'm off base here. Generally speaking, they had made some adjustments that were requested. There was one adjustment they could not make because of some tenants at the bottom floor that had to do with moving a column line. And if you move that column line, you would move it in front of the front door of the main tenant in the base commercial space that would create issues, and that was why they could not do something. So there are some times that designers will come to the Downtown Design Review Committee, and there's some collaboration. There's also some discussion about the streetscape on Magnolia. As you see the streetscape today, up and down that section of Magnolia, you have a curb, you have a grassy strip or dirt, depending, the shade doesn't grow grass very well, and you have trees and then sidewalk behind that. The city is opening up its own project to widen the sidewalk along that whole section of Magnolia. The question was raised by the Downtown Design Review Committee members. Forrest and I are members of that group, but of the volunteer side of it. And two of those members would like to see that whole area hardscaped, which means sidewalk, basically, or concrete. And one of the members would prefer to see the green there as is, and she's smiling at you right now. And so that decision was made in connection with the staff. Our staff actually, early in the development process, also wanted to see that hardscaped. But that's something the developer also felt strongly about, having some greenery in there. And we have some grade issues that were very well pointed out by the engineer for the developer, and that is why there is some grass, some trees, then a sidewalk, and then they've got their commercial space. But by and large, unless Forrest corrects me, they have addressed the comments raised, other than the column line, and Anna can weigh in as well. There was some softening of some facades that face the Tumor Street side, and some of the things pointed out. They've done some architectural things to address that, and there will be greenery blocking a good bit of that, because it's a sheer wall to their parking garage, and it's not open, and so it looked like a blank wall. Those have been addressed. They have been amenable working with us, and I think the developer is here tonight and can show you a few things if he needs to. Some of the challenges with renderings and why you don't see more in your packet is they are not final. The drawing that you have in your packet is as far as it gets. We don't require renderings at the staff level, and that resides in construction drawings, which are a normal part of our building and development review team process. And while these are still being adjusted along the way, some things in their renderings don't show well because they're going to have a slightly different finish, or they're going to have a different pattern in the stone that they're using, or other things that the renderings don't show you exactly what it's going to look like in 2 years. And some of those things are fluid throughout the 2-year process and coordinated with staff along the way. And I use the example of balconies at the standard look wood right now, and they're going to be changing, but we're not final with that process, and that's what you rely on the staff for, is to make sure that we are the arbiters of that and take care of that. But they have responded to date to what has been requested.
Thank you.
I know the developers' representatives are here. We talked this afternoon. Would the council be okay if they came forward and made a few comments? Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Megan, thank you. I think you described that wonderfully. We did meet with DDRC for a second go-around last week.
Thank you for doing that.
And we appreciate it. It was great comments. We appreciate Ms. Solomon being there and adding to the context of the meeting. We sent over some renderings.
Could I just get your name?
Sure, Andy Barfield with Holder Properties. Sorry, signature. And so we sent over some renderings that essentially was an abbreviated version of what we reviewed with the DDRC last week. And ultimately, we walked out feeling very positive about the meeting. Forrest provided minutes that reflect that. And hopefully you've seen those, and that captures that. I also want to personally thank Ms. Witten for being there to represent council at the DDRC meeting. So here's the first slide. This is the view from West Mag. The stone that was actually brought up in the DDRC meeting is reflected here on the ground floor. And one of the questions was the joint pattern on this. And no, it's not exactly looks like the joint pattern on this, but the stone is a very high-end quality stone that will front West Mag. And so you'll see the retail down on the ground floor. And as we've said since day one, we want to activate the street. So there's 10-foot sidewalks around the entire development, all four sides. There's street trees, there's street lights. And so our whole intent is to bring the pedestrians to that front door. One of the requests from the city, which we have provided, is a beacon so that students can, or whoever's walking across the street can press, and they can walk across the crosswalk. So it's a safety, we think a major benefit. As well as we've reduced the curb cuts on West Mag. There's only one curb cut for our development and is a right out only for Chick-fil-A. We obviously know the traffic impact that Chick-fil-A has caused. Everyone wants to go to Chick-fil-A from essentially 7 till 10 all day long. And so we feel that by bringing in Chick-fil-A off of Thomas and Tumor, their traffic there, that we've mitigated a lot of that. If you want to click to the next one, please. So this is site plan again, just to recap. What you're looking at is Plan South is West Magnolia. And as Megan had mentioned, we've got green and landscaping strip that fronts the street, and then a 10-foot sidewalk, and then another 12 feet of hardscapes. Planters, elevated planters. Again, our whole intent is to bring people to that retail. A lot of lighting. So it's very important to us that we present well on West Mag as well as around the development. You can see the two entries off of Tumor to your right and Thomas to your left. That's where we plan on bringing in visitor parking as well as Chick-fil-A drive-through. And so there's a lot of thought that's gone into that. Chick-fil-A currently takes about 14 or 15 cars in their drive-through. We're taking 36 inside the development. So again, the intent is to reduce the traffic impact and bring them inside the development. If you want to click to the next one. To Megan's point, this is actually a design document. They use Revit, which is the way they design a building. Architect designs a building. So it's not going to portray the same way that those renderings do, but this gives you a shot at down Janelda. And so street trees, again, 10-foot sidewalks. There is some landscaping up along the building that's not depicted here, and street lights, City of Auburn street lights. And if you want to go to the next one. And then this is West Mag during the day, again, activating the street. You've got stone on the ground floor, brick, and then a stucco cap. We spent a lot of time with DDRC talking about that elevation and the strength of the base versus the field and then the top of the building. And so we feel that we've come to a really good solution for that. Any questions?
Thanks again for going back through.
Sure, we appreciate it. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on this agenda item. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, that's all the items that were called out.
Okay. For, well, we just closed now. Did you have a question for?
The gentleman that made the statement about the committee as a whole and reading the law.
I think we're already moved past that, Connie. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, nobody said, do anybody have any questions, so I didn't know when to ask.
I think we could do that in new business at the
when we do
end of
new
the
business.
meeting.
Yeah, good idea. Okay, so I have a move to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions on anything? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is carried.
Under ordinances this evening, we have item 9A1 is establishing 5 stop signs and 2 25-mile-per-hour signs on the Farmville Lakes Phase 1 property.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
Will the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Any questions? Seeing none. Lindsay?
This question.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
I haven't heard anything about this through my community outreach and whatnot. Was the request for these initiated by the city or by the developer or by public input?
These are engineering standards. I can let Allison
That's fine.
address them.
So I'm sorry, Jim, just to make it easy, it was a city-initiated request, is that correct?
Essentially, yes, it's part of the design standards that they have to do based on traffic studies.
And the same applies to the next two as well, then?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you. No need, Allison, thank you.
Thank you. Motion second. All right, Lindsay?
Dawson? Yes, ma'am.
Dixon?
Yes.
Griswold?
Yes.
Kobe?
Yes, ma'am.
Parson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor?
Yes.
Witten?
Yes.
Anders?
Yes.
Item 9A2 is establishing 3 stop signs and 1 25-mile-per-hour sign on the Woodward Oaks Phase 1 property.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with the vote on this evening? Seeing none, are there any questions? Lindsay?
Dixon?
Yes.
Griswold?
Yes.
Kobe?
Yes, ma'am.
Parson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor?
Yes.
Witten?
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Item 9A3 is establishing 1 25-mile-per-hour sign on the Yarborough Farms Sawgrass section property.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Any questions? Seeing none. Lindsay?
Griswold?
Yes, ma'am.
Kobe?
Ma'am.
Parson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor?
Yes.
Witten?
Yes.
Dawson?
Ma'am.
Dixon?
Yes.
Anders?
Yes.
Item 9B is the approval of a license agreement with HP Auburn LLC for airspace encroachment on property located within the block bounded by Thomas Street, Tumor Street, Janelda Avenue, and West Magnolia Avenue.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Any questions? Seeing none. Lindsay?
Kobe?
Yes, ma'am.
Parson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Taylor?
Yes.
Witten?
Yes.
Dawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Griswold?
Yes, ma'am.
Anders?
Yes.
Under resolutions this evening, we have item 10A is an agreement with Orange Auburn the Third LLC consisting of a letter of intent and lease to spend up to $1 million to relocate and renovate the Colors House. A public hearing is suggested.
Sure. We'll open up a public hearing soon. We'll ask that you'll come forward and give your name and address for the record, okay? And I would ask you to be mindful of how many people might or might not want to speak tonight, that you please do not dominate the airwaves and allow everybody to speak if that's what they'd like to do. Before we get to that, is there anybody on the council that would have anything they would like to say as we move forward with this?
My understanding, we're still working potentially with a private entity to relocate the home, is that correct?
We did have a conversation today with 2 private individuals who were interested in locating. One dropped out and said that he no longer was interested, and we just had a conversation until a little bit after about 5:20 this evening with another one.
And our deadline on this is September 30th, is that correct?
Correct, that is correct.
And so if we were to, we haven't, I'm assuming we have not finished communication with this particular private entity at this point as to
Correct.
yea or nay, except for, there were 2, now there's 1.
Well, it's been more, but there's still one that, yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay. And our next, when is our next meeting?
September 17th? 17th.
I think it would be good due diligence of us and responsible if we explored all the particular or potential private members that could relocate the Colors home before we take a vote as to allocating tax dollars or money from the public coffers. And on that, if there's not going to be, if we're able to readdress this issue before the end of the month or the deadline, I don't see any harm in particularly tabling this. So I'd like to move to table this to our next meeting.
Okay. So we do have a motion to table, correct, Jim? So procedurally, we need to follow through on this. So we have a motion to table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the council based on this motion to table?
Okay, I would like to ask a question. So if we vote to table this, tonight, the public will not have a chance to speak, do a public hearing on it, or we move forward with that? We just don't vote tonight?
It's our privilege as a council to make that determination whether we will allow people. Of course, they could speak at the end of the meeting if they'd like to at the citizens' communications, correct?
Correct. I mean,
If we were to table this, then that would, procedurally, we would not have a public hearing for this if we were to table it. Is that correct?
procedurally, you probably would not have the hearing on this, but as you said, they could speak to it at the end of the meeting.
Under citizens' open forum, they would have an opportunity to speak at that point in time.
And on the 17th, they would have an opportunity.
And on the 17th, they would have an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, and again, this is, a public hearing was suggested. It's at the pleasure of the mayor who's running the meeting. This is not a required public hearing. And if I could get a clarification on the tabling, you did want to table to a date certain, which is September 17th, correct?
I do. In my motion, I'd like to move it to our next council meeting within the month. September 17th, sorry, would be the answer.
Okay. All right. Yes, Kev.
Mr. Buston, this mentions the consideration of a non-binding letter. Is there any adverse impact if we were to go ahead and vote on this, since we have the public here that has gathered for public hearing, which would have unlimited debate time versus at the end of the meeting? I mean, is there any reason why we can't go ahead and approve this and still continue with the negotiation with the private citizen? It says, according to your letter, consideration of a non-binding letter of intent and lease.
Well, and the resolution also allocates $1 million, up to $1 million for moving the house.
Right. Is that
So
something
if you voted on the resolution as it is now, you'd be voting on the letter of intent to move and the money to move it. Which we would, if someone from the private sector came, we would have to then come back and rescind that.
Trouble that.
That one. Usually if you wouldn't pass this one if you still wanted to do something different than this.
What's your thought with that, Mr. Griswold?
I just thought, since we have everybody here, it's been such a divisive issue in the community that while everybody's here, let's hear them out. And again, if I didn't realize there were some negative impacts, if we were to go ahead and approve it, that would close or that would limit our ability to negotiate with the private sector. It would not limit that, is that correct?
It wouldn't necessarily limit our ability to negotiate, but you would be taking $1 million and saying, we're going to spend this $1 million on moving the house. Now, from a standpoint of negotiation, that would put us in a somewhat difficult position.
I would anticipate that would probably close the door on any private investor.
Why so?
Just because they'd have no motivation if they know the city has committed $1 million. Why would you, if you know someone else has committed somebody else's money, why would you spend your own?
Because they want it for private use, not for a city park.
That bench doesn't be, I would say that bench is not deep of people right now. And that the likelihood of this discouraging those who maybe are somewhat curious about it, I would be concerned that would push those people away, would be my thought, my intuition, but that's all that is intuition.
And my opinion is that I feel like tabling would be the best option simply because, as he stated, it'll give a private sector the opportunity to come in and say, hey, well, you know, we've come up with some monies and we want to do this. And so I don't have a problem with hearing what the public say, but I just don't think that we should vote on whether or not the city should pay for the move. Not tonight, until after the discussion be made with the private sector.
Anyone else on the council have a comment or thought on this, on tabling this tonight, which is what the motion is currently, to table this for 2 more weeks till September 17th? Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Okay, if not, we need to take a vote on that, correct, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the motion on the table is to table this until 2 weeks from tonight, which is September the 17th, okay? So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we have tabled this to September the 17th. And at that point in time, we will discuss the relocation of the Colors House. I would say this, if you know people in the private sector that are interested, please encourage them to come forward. It's nothing but time to sit down and talk with the staff about the ins and outs of this. But remember, this is not the city of Auburn's home. This is a private individual's property right now. It's being purchased by another private individual. I certainly would love, in a perfect world, to see somebody come take this house and move it. We need everybody's participation and help, and if you've got ideas and thoughts on that, it's time to go. Brett's motion has given us all 2 more weeks to make that determination. So we're all ears and all available. If you'd like to talk about this tonight, you have a chance here at the end of this meeting that you can talk about this, or you can wait for 2 more weeks, or you can continue to send the emails to us that we've all received here the last couple of days. And we appreciate it. This has drawn a lot of passion from our community. To me, that's a good thing, that people care about what our community looks like, how it functions, and the decisions we make. I would never want that to wane. So we're still here to hear what you've got to say. All right, Connie, other business at this point in time, if you'd like to bring up what this gentleman said earlier about the committee of the whole.
Okay, I just want to ask a question, and this is to the city manager. Now, I understand, and I heard what he said. Now, in the past, and I don't know whether, you made your statement tonight because this is the first time you're here, but the committee of a whole, from my understanding with the city, is that if we want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, we make a motion to discuss it at the next city of the whole. So, and that's been happening ever since I've been on the council. So, but according to...
Doing it wrong for a long time, yes, we did.
Hold on, sir.
Okay, well, and I just want to hear from the city, are we doing it the wrong way? Is it legal or illegal the way we're doing it? Because if we do, then if it has any, legality in it, then maybe we need to change our procedures. But if it's not, then we proceed to continue to do the way, because I was instructed to do it that way.
Right, and you are doing it legally. Now, you also set your own rules, which you do at the very first meeting of a sitting council, where you adopt additional rules of how your meeting is going to be run. In that first sitting, you did adopt the rules that you just explained of how to bring up something additionally in front of the public to address whatever the issue is at a public setting. And as you said, it's brought up, the council decides whether they want to bring that up to a public meeting, and they did exactly how you brought up your issue on parking this evening. That is legal. That is part of the rules that you set up in your first sitting.
Mr. Buston, would you consider those rules that we adopted when we were first sworn in to be additions?
They are. They are, and they supersede.
All right.
I'd like to call the council person witness.
Thank you, Councilperson Tommy Dawson.
Would it be fair to say that the lack of conversation concerning the agenda on a city council night in the committee of the whole is due to the fact that we conduct a packet meeting on the week prior, so the questions that we may have of the upcoming agenda are addressed on Friday, so you don't get a lot of further queries on the night?
You could say, yes, yeah.
I would totally agree with you, Mr. Parsons.
Yeah, and to Ms. Taylor's point, not only has this council operated pretty much this way now, this council operates somewhat differently than previous councils, but all of them have used committee of the whole in much the same way you all are doing it right now. They never had the opportunity of the agenda meeting, which this council has also adopted, which goes directly to that statement in there of discussing the items on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, for bringing that up. And I just remind our community that every Friday before our meetings on Tuesday, we meet with Jim and Megan and other pertinent staff, and we go through the agenda, and we can ask questions at that point in time. It's a very valuable opportunity for us to get a head start on what we're going to be determining on Tuesday night, and that's something new that this council has decided to do, and I believe it's been a good use of our time on Fridays to do that. So,
And Mayor, that is a public meeting.
that is a public meeting, absolutely. Thank you, Jim.
Additionally, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I also stream that meeting onto my Facebook account on the Friday before the packet meeting, so it is available if you can't make it to the meeting itself to see us discuss items on the agenda.
Okay, anything else under other business for the council? Okay, at this time, it's Citizens Open Forum. This is where you can address the City Council about anything on your mind. Please come forward and give your name and address for the record, and you do have 3 minutes at this point in time to address the council. 3 minutes.
Okay. All right, my name is Holly McIntyre. My address is 2727 Lee Road 12, number 101. I'm here in regards to, the Colors House, which you want to move at the city's expense for roughly $1 million. We have residents that are being displaced right now in the, Ward 8. Tommy Dawson is the one in charge of that ward over there. Now, there's been some talk about it being in the county city limits or in the city limits. Every time there's an emergency, we call the police. The Auburn City Police come. When we have a fire, which just happened actually this past Friday night, there was a fire there, and it took the Auburn City Police Department, Auburn Police Department, station number 5. It took them 27 minutes to get there, and that's before they passed the road. They went, and it took them 6 more minutes to get turned around and come back. So that's 33 minutes it took for the city to get there if somebody was, in a house fire, because there was a big inferno fire going at that time. The person who owns this property has sold the land. It's not really clear if he's sold it or it's just in waiting right now, because across the street, that whole section is Opportunity Zone. I don't know how familiar everybody is with the federally funded program of an Opportunity Zone, but that is actually, most of Auburn is in that jurisdiction that the federal government has dedicated to be an Opportunity Zone, which means, it's for the investors to come in and put some money up, what they get with tax deferral for, 10 years or something like that, for their capital gains, they invest into it, and they make the money back that way. It's a long-term program, but it happens. Anyhow, this site is also, that hasn't been, I guess you'd say, recognized as one, but it should be as a brownfield. So whomever is trying to purchase this property needs to know this, because there is a separate septic system that's on site right there. It's not the city sewage system at all, which I think was an understanding that people thought it was. It's not. It's individual, and it is, there's 103 families right now that are being displaced. Right here in your city, 103 families. And y'all are talking about spending $1 million to move some house with the historical preservation or whatnot should, I assume, pick up that tab, because that's what they're there for. And why is the city spending this money to move this house when there's people there that have no place to go? That's 103 individual families, not just 103 people. This is individual residences. Now, we understand the property's being sold, fine, we'll move. We have no problem about moving, we will move, that's fine. The trailer park is an eyesore, I agree, it really is. But we need help with moving. We can't all of a sudden, at the last minute, be called and say, hey, you gotta move. I mean, what have happened to you and your families at the last second? And you gotta get up and go. Nobody's saved for this, nobody thought about that. It wasn't in our lease agreements. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Buston, could you quickly address this property? I know, Tommy, you might want to say this property is outside the city limits, but I know law enforcement and public safety have served them in the past.
So this particular property this particular property is not in the city limits of Auburn. It is in the county, in Lee County. We do have a mutual aid agreement with, we have a police jurisdiction, and that police jurisdiction extends to about 3 miles outside of our lines. That is not a requirement of the city. That is something, if our sister city, Opelika, pulled back their policing area to their city limits, and the city of Auburn could do the same. We help, by doing what we do, we help the sheriff in his duties of patrolling the county. And it's the same with fire. We are not the primary fire service to the county, but for most time, the way, especially some areas that are in the county and surrounded by city, we are the first ones to get there, or the logical ones to get there, because we're closest. But people in the county do not pay city taxes. They do not vote for y'all. They vote for the county commissioners. And the issues that they have would be better served speaking to their county commissioner who have jurisdiction. City council has no jurisdiction over this property.
Okay. Mr. Dawson, this is in your ward, you mentioned you.
I was made aware of this problem a couple of months ago, I believe, with Mrs. Councilperson Taylor. If there was something I could do, I would be happy to do it. But I've talked with the city manager, and he's told me the same thing he's saying here tonight. There's just nothing we can do. But if you come up with something that I can help you with, or something that I can possibly do to help the situation, I sympathize with you. I know, I can imagine what it's like to have to be out of place in, I think you said 90 days. It's hard to come up with the money to move a mobile home in that amount of time. And I truly sympathize with you, but I just don't know of anything that I can personally, or the city can do, because it is not in the city limits.
All right, would anybody else?
She had a question and she spoke.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes.
I just want to say that it's not in the city limits. However, the city limits is all around this one piece of property. It's the last little piece of the puzzle that has not been zoned in. And it's also under the Auburn Planning and Zoning jurisdiction. So doesn't that make it your problem and not the county's? Because the county is saying the opposite too. So somebody needs to, because I'm pretty sure it's going to be zoned in. You know, it's just a matter of time as soon as everybody gets off the land. Because the place across the street, every place is zoned in to the city except this one little spot, but everybody past there, before there, across the street from there, within like a 50-mile radius is zoned into the city limits. And it's also listed as being contiguous to the Auburn city limits, meaning this can be zoned in, no problem. It can be annexed in, sorry. So it's just a matter of time before it's going to become the city of Auburn's problem. So why not help the people there move, then just ignore them and say, let's throw it to the county, because that's what it looks like.
We have no mechanism, and
There's no legal mechanism. You have no legal mechanism to spend City of Auburn taxpayer money in the county. And we do not have planning jurisdiction in the county. What we have is limited jurisdiction over subdivision. That's all we have. We do not have zoning jurisdiction in the county.
Okay, well, let me, if you don't mind, I want to ask a question about the opportunity zone part of it. Okay, and I heard her say something about opportunity zone. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know a little bit about it. And I think we got maybe a attorney or some attorneys in the house that maybe can give us a little issue, because I thought the opportunity zone monies were for distressed areas. And so if it's in an area where there's been, those opportunity zones are in the area that's being under distress right now, is there some type of protection? And I'm saying that simply because I just don't feel like, even with the situation that these tenants are having, they don't have a problem with the property being sold. The problem they're having, and I just want everybody to understand, is the hardship of moving those mobile homes. So, and I understand you saying that, it's not zoned into the city. I actually thought it was, because I thought that was part of Mr. Dawson's ward, the reason why I talked to him about it. But if it's not, it's not. But I want to know about the opportunity zones areas from somebody.
Jim, is that something we could discuss now, or is that something that maybe somebody from economic development could provide a memo to the council about opportunity zones a little bit later? I
We
know
could.
That's a
we
fairly
could.
complicated subject matter.
It is, but I think it's important to note that city staff nor Auburn city government had any opportunity to weigh in on what would be designated an opportunity zone in Auburn or not. This was all done at the state level without any input from us, from y'all, or from staff. How they came up with these zones, I have absolutely no idea. They would not be the zones that we would have advised them to designate as opportunity zones. But if this is, and I don't know if it is, but if it is an opportunity zone, it was designated such to help redevelopment, not to protect, but to help redevelop it. But we could get a memo to council.
That still wouldn't change the jurisdiction of the city limit.
It does not change the jurisdiction. It has nothing to do with jurisdiction. No.
Okay. All right. Anyone else like to come forward?
Bishop A. Dowdell Sr., 618 Howard Street. It's my understanding that the city is, after they had bought this property, will purchase this property. And we have 103 or 101 citizens. But we did meet with them and let them know that even though the people are telling them that they got to get out of there in 90 days, their property have to be adjudicated by a judge. No person that, even though they can say that, have the privy and right to tell those 101 people that they got to get off of their property. Even though they give them 90 days, I would suggest that each and every one of those families hold fast. They got hardships, and they should not move and totally ignore the fact that someone telling them to move off of their property without a judge first hearing them and making an adjudication. That's why we got a jurisprudence and all of these people who will make these decisions for them. And I believe that when a judge hears this, they're going to give them ample amount of time to move their property. But I suggest to all of these 101 citizens, and I believe that the city of Auburn, we've done that before. When my almost 20 years on the city council, we allow folks to get land and we bring it into the city limits. So my suggestion is to all of those people that I met with them, and I told them this, and it's my understanding from my resource that a lawyer met and told them the same thing, that they don't have to move at the request of someone just saying, I give you 90 days to get off of this property, y'all get off. These people need help, man. And all of us ought to have a heart for these people. It's not in Thomas District, I knew that. And I also knew that nothing the city could do. But we can do something morally by saying to them that we shouldn't even consider, even if they do want to build truck stops or whatever, can you go to sleep tonight knowing that 101 people, and these trailers are over 10 years old, what trailer park they going to let them move in? You can't move those old trailers into a new trailer park. They're not going to allow that to be. So we got 101 people in hardship. And we would ask that you would join me in saying to those people, stay on your property. Don't move out, because some of those people cannot afford to move out. And we got to be concerned about that. I know that I am. You know, I don't usually come to city council much. But I did come tonight, let them know I do support them. And I hope that you support them also.
Thank you. Who will be next?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Trellis Smith. I live 778 Whitaker Lane, Auburn. To Mayor Enders, the City Council. I work with the Northwest Auburn Committee, and I'm here to bring attention to two major needs that families in Northwest Auburn have, along with other low to moderate income families in the city. There is a significant number of youth, particularly among low to moderate income families, that score below proficient in reading, math, and science. They receive limited academic support from home because their parents are working or unavailable. As a result of this, we need a comprehensive after-school program that meets the needs of the youth and the work hours of the families, those that work beyond 5 o'clock. We also need transportation for the youth to get there. On a daily basis, we have youth that are transported by a school bus to school for education and back home. There is limited transportation, however, that will take these youth, particularly teenagers, to after-school enrichment activities to a program that operates perhaps from 4 to 8 o'clock p.m. So what do I propose? A comprehensive after-school program that provides effective mentoring, counseling, academic support, life management, skill development, job preparation, and placements with work stipends that will help increase academic success and decrease child neglect, abuse, and delinquency. I have met with and received support from Superintendent Herring, from school principals Barlow, Reed, Armstrong, Carson, the Honorable Judge Mike Fellows, Chief Justice Johnson, the Alabama Department of Transportation, Lee Russell County Transit, the Honorable City Councilwoman Connie Taylor, all who echo the need for transportation and education in Northwest Auburn. You have before you packets that I have prepared with details of how we can do this, and I ask that the council review it for consideration. Thank you.
Hey, I got a question. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is this program modeled after anywhere else? Is there another community that might be doing this?
No, this is a grassroots organization. The organization and the program has been in the community since 2006. So we have been operating for 13 years. We employ best practices that is based on research, but it is homegrown in the county.
That's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Thank you.
Dr. Smith,
Yeah.
thank you for what you're doing with this. This organization is awesome.
Lindbergh B. Jackson. Let me pass over to the mayor, honorable mayor here, some information that I collected concerning the use and the busking. And I believe some information that I collected. In this package, I have the same thing that you ladies and gentlemen have. I support IMBK because my family, we came in a hard time of hardships, and maybe not like some other families. I didn't live in Northwest Auburn, never lived there, but most of my friends lived there. You heard me say this before. So I've taken an interest there because this year alone we had 300 students to come into Auburn. I spoke with the superintendent, our new superintendent. I spoke with our previous superintendent about the problems we have in Northwest Auburn. And I think all of you guys know the key to decreasing crime and other problems that we have in our area, in our neighborhood, is education. Right now, it's a 911 for IMBK. She serves two communities, Macon County as well as Lee County. She does not have adequate transportation to transport the kids since the school system no longer will do that. If we are looking at spending possibly $1 million on moving a historic building, surely in your package, you will see that she's asking for some help to get these kids to and from. She's not asking for a whole lot of money. She's asking for not a handout, but just a hand up so that those kids can have the same opportunity as other kids. 70% of these kids are from single parents' homes. Generally, I'm complaining about some infrastructure or something like that. But it's our kids that matter. Our previous mayor said, Anders, 75% of who we have here today that runs our city and look out for the welfare is us baby boomers. 25% is our kids, but 100% of our future. Me and Bill don't agree on many things, but I do agree with him on that. 100% of our future is our kids. So, last but not least, I think you guys should consider looking into giving more space to her in the Boykin Center rather than 6 rooms for a clinic. Auburn University has committed, and EMAC has committed, a 3-story facility, has an emergency room, it has 6 operating rooms, and a 3rd-story building that there won't be anything. Try to rush through it, run out of breath. But you guys consider doing the right thing. It's never the wrong time to do the right thing. Thank you.
Lindbergh.
Yes, sir.
So, I'm all about good people having a good place to work.
Right.
I was a big proponent of what the pharmacy school will be doing at Boykin.
Right.
Because I believe that it was bringing health care and assistance to people who had trouble with transportation. It was bringing it directly to a neighborhood. It was going to be cost effective for those that were going to receive it. I thought it was a great out-of-the-box plan by the university. And I commended them for this effort.
Right.
So tell me why you don't think that's a good idea.
Well, it may be a good idea as far as a pilot program, testing the water, but I'm here to say that most people that have Medicare, Medicaid, they ride the Lee Cot, and that's the Lee Russell bus, back and forth to the doctor's office. They have their own private physicians. And who we have here is we have kids competing with adults that are generally taken care of by some subsidized facility. And also 6 rooms, 6 classrooms, and I'm sure the city will contribute, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, something toward the development of that. Mayor, I'm sorry, I should have addressed that to you. Is the city contributing something?
Absolutely. The city participated in the build-out of Boykin, correct?
Right. Okay, so if we've got 6 rooms there, we have a brand-new facility committed to Auburn University emergency rooms, 6 operating rooms. We have a 3-story building that's not being built out. So, yes, possibly 3 rooms, but not 6 rooms. Boykin, right now, we have only space for 12 computer laboratories, 12 spaces for kids. In Northwest Auburn, we have 3,000 people, and you can imagine 2/3 of those are kids. And right now, there's a crunch for space. Not to mention transportation back and forth as the time changes. These kids are wanting to they go home, they're latchkey kids, their parents are at work, there's one car, that person's driven that car home. I'm at to work. So our urgent need right now is transportation and help with these kids' education. Sure, medical help is needed, but not as urgent. And I don't know who voted that amount of space would be used. But let's scale back a little bit. Let's don't go so far and so deep into it. Why don't we do 3 for starters? And if not, why don't we share the space? Why don't we make it a little diverse? I'm just saying we need to explore some other possibilities to help the kids in Northwest Auburn.
I'm all about helping the kids in Northwest Auburn.
And we're all about helping kids all over. As they say in the military, when the tide rises, all the ship rise. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for the city manager on it.
Yep.
Jim, is IAMBK, or have they submitted a outside agency request in the past?
I would have to look. I don't know, but that is a good point. Should they want assistance from the council, you would bring this up at your budget meeting in June?
Exactly.
Okay. And address that at the time. This is not an either or. This could be an and.
Right. So there is a mechanism for nonprofits to submit requests to the city government during the budget cycle for outside agency requests, and then we could consider those for funding as part of the upcoming budget. So it's unless that's been done previously, then certainly, there wouldn't be funding available for them.
Dr. Smith, has that ever been done? Do you know?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
And I'd like to say
That's
this,
all.
the urgent need didn't come until the data came in about the transportation. The superintendent called and says, we have no more room to deliver kids to that location. So she had no way of knowing that.
I got you. Thank you.
Well, I want to ask a question as far as the transportation part goes. And I know that, even in our budgets and stuff, we set money aside for transportation, such as for Lee Russell that we voted on probably the last council meeting and stuff. Now, we voted on, I think, like four new vehicles for Lee Russell. So, those other vehicles, and according to, I guess somebody asked the question, and it probably was me, about the vehicles, we purchasing vehicles, so what are we doing with the vehicles? Are we purchasing vehicles and still using the old vehicles, or, what is that process as far as transportation?
Ms. Taylor, that would probably be a question for the Lee Russell staff. The council made a decision to fund that use, but their staff is the one who makes the determinations. Tommy and I serve on that board. I'll be happy to get you in touch with their staff, which their new executive director was here 2 weeks ago. And my understanding was what we funded were 4 replacement vehicles, not 4 additional vehicles.
Okay, replacement.
But we can get that confirmed.
Okay.
And we can certainly have a conversation with them about their strategy and their need, what they see as the needs in the community, and bring this up. Is this a potential need? Can they meet this? I think that would be the first place I would go to ask questions. That's a great idea, Connie.
Okay. And I just want to say one other thing about that. And we're talking about this health center, and I have no problem with they putting a health facilities in Boykin. But I'm in agreement with Mr. Jackson as far as the space, because, there's health facilities all over Auburn, and I promise you, if somebody was sick and they need to get to the doctor, there's means of transportation like ambulance services and all these kind of stuff. So I don't really think that would be a problem as far as health goes. The priority should have been something educational to be put in Boykin, such as a library or some type of computer room in those spaces. So, and that's, that's just how, that's my take on that.
Jim, what's the best way for an organization to get information on getting on the outside funding docket for us? Is there a website they could go to, or is there somebody with the city they could connect with? And just in this example, Dr. Smith, if she wanted to get more information on that.
Probably the best thing is to contact us at City Hall, and we can direct them to the documentation necessary to make a request.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I just want to make it known that the City of Auburn has decided to not help the residents of Southwest Auburn. Is that correct? We've asked you for your help, and y'all have decided not to join us, not to help us. So the residents of Southwest Auburn do not have your help. Is that right? That's what I'm going on record, is just making that known.
Ma'am, I think we're restricted by the law of the state of Alabama.
Well, the county keeps putting us off to the city, and you keep putting us off to the county.
Ma'am, we all, I don't think anyone's sitting up here going, we don't want to help. What I'm saying is, we have limitations as to what can be done.
But your limitations say you cannot, right?
There's certain legal services of Alabama that could provide legal services for you and other folks that are there regarding unlawful detainers and evictions and things of that nature. But we, as a body, are limited by the laws of the state of Alabama.
I understand.
We are supportive of you, I believe. I don't mean to speak out of line.
I understand. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Anders, ladies and gentlemen, the council, Herbert Walter DeMar Jr., 412 Opelika Road, Apartment 111. I'm going to speak in part tonight as part of the Northwest Auburn Task Force, and also, if time permits, as a private citizen on another matter. I went to the school board public hearing tonight in reference to several items on their budget, including the city's allocation, and the bond money has been approved for the J.F. Drake Middle School project coming up. From what little I know in my involvement with the Northwest Auburn Task Force, there is concern about the new project, but there's also concern about what's going to happen to the old J.F. Drake Middle School building, which was once J.F. Drake High School. And we in the task force have some ideas as to what we'd like to see there. And we would hope that you would create the environment, at least, as to preserve that building as much as possible so that something can be done with it. Also, in backup to what Dr. Smith was making in her remarks, there was mention about special revenue fund. Some of the money is going to be used for an after-school program. I have a copy of the document if you want to see it tonight, at the appropriate time. But I'm hoping that everything would go through so that we could have that school in place and also preserve the old school, the old building, because we talk about the Colors House, but that J.F. Drake building is just as important to the history of Auburn as the Colors House or any other historic document.
I agree with you.
Now, in the 1 minute I have left, during the Auburn University communications tonight reminded me of the statements that have been out about the governor, an Auburn graduate, about what happened there. And as you know, you have supported Auburn University, even to the point to the allocation to the Arts Center. I'm hoping that that would help Auburn University address its problems concerning race relations and concerning its treatment of LGBTQs. You read and heard about the Princeton Review. It's a mixed bag, and we're all excited about the football victory, and everybody ought to. But let that not blind us from addressing the issues of race relations, not only on campus, but how it affects relations here in the city of Auburn. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Council, my name is, again, Dan Hatcher. I still reside at 1514 Alex Avenue, unless someone told me I'd leave. But and my comments tonight are totally insignificant compared to the issues that Dr. Smith and others have expressed. So please put that in the scale. I would like to point out a rule of order, per Robert's Rules of Order. A motion can be voted to be placed on the table. It remains on the table for 1 week, 10 years, 50 years, until such time as a motion is made to bring it off the table, a second, and it is voted by this meeting or any group to bring it back onto the floor for discussion. You can't put something on the table to be discussed at a later time. That term is called postponement. The table was on the floor. The council can make the decision with a motion and second to postpone this question, which was before you, to a later date as set. So I would recommend maybe a little refresher in Robert's Rules of Order for all of us, since it is the state law, and since the state law gives the duty and responsibility to our honorable mayor to be the chairman of this group. And so I thank you for your attention and my insignificance. Thank you.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Hatcher as our parliamentarian.
Second. Thank you, Mr. Hatcher.
Might be well served.
Yeah. We can all use a little accountability from time to time. Anyone else?
Carolyn Carr, 342 Payne Street here in town. My remarks are completely different. I just wanted to pass along to all of you on the council and city officers what excellent interface I have had both with fire, the EMTs, and the police this week. And I thought it just reflected very well on the city. The young policeman, who seemed very young to me, did a very nice job, and when I came to get a copy of the police report, Ms. Huey was delightful to deal with at all. But I really especially want to say words about the EMTs that came when, a very former neighbor, but who now lives on North College, but Ms. Thomas was injured on Payne Street and did not want to see a doctor or go to the hospital. And we were saying, you really need to do this, and she didn't want us to call the EMTs, but we did. And I was so impressed with the young gentleman who was getting down all the information on who she was and all of this on the one hand, and the young lady who was bandaging a very large abrasion on her arm, and whoever the man was that was in charge, who was a little bit older, and I'm sorry, I don't have his name, but we wound up calling him Mr. Smooth, when she was saying, no, I'm not going to, and he was like, now, don't worry about that. And they kept checking on things and doing things. And finally, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. Oh, well, if you'll just stand up and take a few steps and just let us see how everything is. And of course, that did not work out well. And he just, well, Ms. Thomas, you just need to go on. We'll just take you right on out there. And before you know it, she was on the stretcher and off to East Alabama. They handled this all so well, and this dear lady who really, really did not want to go to the hospital, but wound up having to have hip surgery. It was so very well done, and she was quite content by the end of this, and I was just very impressed with the quality of the people, as I say, that I saw working on this week, and I want to thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. Anyone else? Okay. Oops, I'm sorry.
So I'm Anna Solomon. I live at 215 Marion Circle, and I feel like I've been very vocal and have written quite a few emails and letters in support of moving the Colors House. So I brought a copy with me of probably the most recent email, although I've lost track of some of them. But I would like to say I totally agree with so many sentiments tonight of the needs in Auburn. The Boykin Center, the IMBK, there are so many things that need to be done, but I don't want to cloud the issues. And I want to make sure that y'all consider each issue separately. Definitely, as you're looking at your budgets and where money can be spent or where help can be given, then I would like for y'all to consider that. As far as the Colors House, I have mentioned many times, I went to all of the downtown master plan meetings. I trusted the planning department, the planning commission, the city council to implement a downtown master plan that we could be proud of. And the one thing that happened at the end that did change in there is that zoning changed so that it favored did not favor the preservation of that corner. And that's unfortunate, but we can't change that. That's just the way it is. But what you can do is you, as a council, can make a decision to preserve a piece of Auburn's history. And you can decide that you want to be known for a council that is responsible for that, and that not only is responsible, but that you can help and you can implement. I appreciate Councilman Smith's GoFundMe page that is just a drop in the bucket. And realistically, I don't know that many people are going to contribute much money to a private individual saying that they want to fund $1 million campaign. But from a city council point of view, y'all can make a decision to task the people in the city who work, the city staff, to come up with creative ways to fund a move. So we might say that it might cost $1 million, but you can also look at how can we get people to contribute. Chamber of Commerce, Auburn Opelika Tourism, there are lots of people that have great ideas that could potentially help with that. So that's what I'd like for y'all to consider. I know that I'm trying to do what I can. I would like for y'all to try really hard too. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Ryan Castedaban, 801 South Gay Street. I kind of came to hear the discussion on the Colors House tonight, and I actually have great respect for Ms. Solomon and a few other people that I know that care about this house. I can't disagree more with them in terms of where they think the funding should come to save this house. I think tonight was evidence that the city's position on this house, why it's even being talked about, is shocking to me, with all the other issues that are so much more important than this house. I think the statement that has been made by the city is, we've got so much money that we'll just do almost anything. This is on par with your friend buying a white tiger from Siegfried and Roy. I mean, this is like where you just have too much money and you just start coming up with ridiculous things to do, in my opinion. We have a lot of things that need to be done here, from Northwest Auburn to other programs that people have mentioned tonight. This is something that people who are passionate about, which there are people in the community that are, should step up and put their money forward. I heard about Councilman Smith's proposal where I think there's been $400 raised. I think it speaks to the fact that people want it done, but they don't want it done enough where they're concerned with putting their money forward. And I just can't strongly express that the city, this is not a function of government. They should not be looking to even be doing this. And in that regard, I mean, I remember moving here in 2011 and it was voted on, and I think just by the council, that we should raise taxes in the city one point, you know, from 8 to 9, which, mind you, that's not all of the city's money. I mean, that portion is, but I think 4% or so goes to the state. So in effect, you raise taxes on your citizens like 25% at just a stroke of the pen. And with the consideration that we're deciding whether we should do these silly things, I think that what we should be talking about now is how do we vote to give back that penny on everything we buy in town, and not what else can we foolishly spend money on. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Do I have a move to adjourn?
So moved.
We adjourn.